This is Michael Popok, Legal AF. We got some developments in Georgia in the Trump election interference case against him and 13 others that will likely mean that at least Donald Trump will not go to trial in that case before the November election. Again, it looks like based on some new rulings and new scheduling by the intermediary appellate court that sits over Atlanta, the Georgia Court of Appeals, and a randomly selected 3-judge panel who has said that they're going to hear an appeal on oral argument of the trial judge's decision not to disqualify Fani Willis, the Fulton County District Attorney, because of her romantic relationship at one time with a person she hired to be the special prosecutor on the case, Nathan Wade. The judge, having heard days of evidence, ultimately, in a long March 15th opinion, decided that even though he had trouble believing some of the testimony, even by the prosecutor herself, that he did not find the appearance of impropriety or any financial commingling or improper relationship between Fani Willis and Nathan Wade, and therefore he denied the motion. At the time, he certified the question to allow it to go to the appellate court. On one hand, the judge said back in March, I'm not going to delay these proceedings. I'm going to let you take your appeal. But he also has not set this case for trial since March, and we're already here in June. Neither has Fani Willis asked to have the case set for trial, which also we thought was a bit odd here on Legal AF. The result is the case has just sort of been in suspended animation, in stasis. Now we've got movement, but it's in the wrong direction. The appellate court, which isn't the highest court, not the Georgia Supreme Court, but the one right below it, and a 3-judge panel, Judge Brown, Judge Markle, and Judge Land, have decided that they're going to have the hearing, but they've set oral argument on October the 4th. It's not even clear whether they're actually going to hold oral argument, but by placing that pin on the calendar and holding the ring for October 4th, that means that they will not make a decision on full briefing about whether the disqualification decision not to disqualify Fani Willis was right or wrong until after October 4th, as late as March of 2025. That is the end of the term for the appellate court, meaning if they don't make that ruling through March of 2025 about it, then all bets are off for the trial. Now, as of right now, Judge McAfee, despite the appellate court, intermediary appellate court, setting this oral argument, at least a hold date for October the 4th, meaning no ruling before then for this argument, the judge could still set the case for trial. But he hasn't. And again, Fani Willis hasn't asked for it either, which is a little bit of a head scratcher. In the meantime, we expect on Legal AF that Donald Trump will move for a stay order of the appellate court to stay the trial court from setting any future dates in the case, any pretrial dates and any trial date until the decision of the appellate court, which would come no earlier than October and more likely close to March of 2025. And so we haven't had that stay yet. We'll report on it on Legal AF, but we can expect that it's coming. Unless there's a stay, just to reinforce it, Judge McAfee, the trial judge in Fulton County, Georgia, and Atlanta, could set the case for trial. That would force the hand of Donald Trump's lawyers to then move and run to the appellate court and say, hey, trial judge is moving on, setting this case for trial. Fundamentally, we need to have a decision about whether the disqualification or the failure to disqualify Fani Willis was right or wrong by the trial judge, and there shouldn't be a trial in the meantime. Now, in most circumstances, like if this was New York where I practice, if the appellate court set a date so far out in advance to hear a major issue like this, it usually would also signal that they would deny a motion for stay and they'd want the trial to go forward. But because this fundamentally has to do with like disqualification or recusal of like a trial judge, or in this case, the prosecutor, in Georgia, that's not apparently how it works. And what they are more inclined, the 3-judge panel that was randomly selected, all Republican candidates, not all put in their seats by Republican governors in Georgia, they are inclined, I am sure, to grant any kind of motion for stay. I mean, if Donald Trump raises his eyebrow or winks, I think he's going to get the stay order, which is why the takeaway from this hot take is, as of right now, and at the rate we are going, the only trial a criminal trial that will have been completed before the November 5th election so that the voters of America know who they're voting for, is the New York election interference case arising out of the Stormy Daniels hush money interference. People thought that was the weakest case. People thought that's not the case we want. It may not be the case you want, but to paraphrase an old rock music song, if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. You have to, get your jury convictions where you can find them. And the one that happened first was the one that was indicted first in New York. And now the voters in America know that, and they can make their decision based on it, that Donald Trump was convicted of 34 counts of false business records in furtherance of a second crime, likely election interference. And they can make that decision. But if we all thought, Georgia, what about Georgia? This episode of Legal AF is brought to you by Manakora Honey, also known as the honey with superpowers. Let me share something sweet with you. And I mean really sweet. It's something that's become a staple in my routine, and I think you're going to love it. I'm talking about Manakora Honey. When I say honey, you might be picturing those bear-shaped bottles at the supermarket. But that's not what this is. Manakora Honey is single origin, rich, creamy, and the most delicious honey you've ever had. It's supercharged with unique antioxidants and prebiotics and has 3 times more than your average honey. Manakora Honey supports immunity, aids digestion, boosts energy, and helps balance inflammation. It's a game changer, and all you need is 1 to 3 teaspoons a day. On top of that, Manakora Honey has a natural antibacterial compound called MGO, only found in Manuka honey. So if you're looking for something simple and delicious to add to your wellness routine, we found your new healthy habit. Now it's easier than ever to try Manakora Honey with the starter kit. Just head to manakora.com/legalaf to get $25 off. The starter kit comes with an MGO 850 plus Manuka honey, 5 honey travel sticks, a wooden spoon, plus a guidebook. Now, I love the jar and squeeze bottle, but the extra pack of compostable honey sticks is perfect for whenever you're on the go. You can bring them with you when you're traveling or need a quick snack running errands. And they are the perfect energy boost if you're out for a run or at the gym. That's manukora.com/legalaf to get $25 off your starter kit. This is the ultimate honey indulge. And try some honey with superpowers from Manakora. Manakora is incredible, and I'm so thankful they're a partner of the show. I look forward to Manakora every morning. Make sure you click the link in our description or head to manakora.com/legalaf and try some today. Because at one point, when this was a horse race, Georgia was out in the lead until this, what's been referred to as a unforced error by the prosecutor who dated her special prosecutor and gave a bit of a gift to Donald Trump and others. Now, the reason it may only apply to Donald Trump is, first of all, in the appeal, not all 14 remaining defendants in Georgia joined in on the appeal. 6 of the defendants were like, we're fine with Fani Willis. That's a loser. 8 joined Donald Trump. That included, of course, Rudy Giuliani, Jeff Clark, Mike Roman, who's just been indicted by the Attorney General in Wisconsin for fake elector certificate involvement. He was the mule. He was the election day coordinator for Donald Trump. But that group joined, of course, Mike Roman led the charge, and Trump followed behind on this motion to disqualify Fani Willis. The prosecutor could conceivably go after the other 6 and try that case before the November election. But we'll have to see. This is going to be her call. Does she ask for a trial setting for the other 6? Does she ask for a trial setting for all 14 and let Donald Trump have to run to the appellate court to get a stay? She's going to have to do something. I mean, right now she's no commenting, but she's going to have to do something tactically to move this ahead. But again, at the rate we're waiting on the immunity decision by the United States Supreme Court on the D.C. election interference case, which along with Mar-a-Lago is the one everybody really wanted, right? the DC election interference case in front of Judge Chutkan for everything that Donald Trump did wrong related to Jan 6th and really wrapped in all of this bad conduct, right? The fake electors, Jan 6th insurrection, the pressure on election officials and elected officials, the use of his lawyers improperly, the use of phony lawsuits to try to delay the inevitable and stop the peaceful transfer of power. That's all sitting in a bundle waiting to be tried with Judge Chutkan as soon as we get a ruling either this week or next week. It's one of the 2 weeks by the United States Supreme Court. They already heard oral argument, their very final oral argument of this term in April, the end of April. And we're still waiting on the decision, which should be coming any minute now. If that decision on immunity is that Judge Chutkan has to figure out what was, private personal matters and what was official conduct, and she has to sort that out with a hearing on the indictment, or maybe that's an issue for the jury, that's got to get back to Judge Chutkan. I mean, it's clear that certain elements of the indictment against Donald Trump in DC is going to survive really what we think is the likely immunity decision by the right wing of the Supreme Court. But there's still work to be done, and the judge has already said she's going to add 90 days onto whenever the case gets back to her for prep. And so if she gets the case back in middle of June, July, August, September, we're looking at a September trial for Donald Trump. I mean, it is possible that the DC election interference case comes out, but it's becoming increasingly unlikely. And now Georgia looks to be completely dead in the water. And so we'll continue to report on things at the intersection of law and politics right here on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. It's the podcast. We named it Legal AF for a reason 4 years ago. Now you know why. It's on Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and then on all major podcast platforms. I do this kind of hot take about every hour, if not every day, right here on the MeidasTouch Network. And if you like what I'm doing, give me a thumbs up and leave a comment. I'm Michael Popok. And then you can follow me on all things social media at MS Popok, and go over and find my full body of work on the MeidasTouch YouTube channel. Free subscribe, help them get to 3 million. Look for contributors, look for playlists, Michael Popok. I got about 1,200 of these hot takes up there right now. So until my next hot take, till my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting. Heary, heary, Legal AF Law Breakdown is now in session. Go beyond the headlines and get a deep dive into the important legal concepts you need to know, and we discuss every day on Legal AF. Exclusive content you won't find anywhere else, all for the price of a couple of cups of coffee. Join us at patreon.com/legalaf. That's patreon.com/legalaf.